that specific topic and then go from there. Okay. So that's it. Let's just get to the fun stuff. That's all. One sec. One sec. There's something a bit off. Hold on. Right, sorry about that. I'm just be sure. All right, so I think the first thing that I want to talk about tonight is passwords. So I'm not going to necessarily read verbatim, but passwords are pretty much an effective way of preventing unauthorized access to any form of data and information. So this approach was taken with things like online accounts, profiles, and the like. So it is a defense measure, a security measure against someone accessing any form of information that they're not supposed to access. That principle would have been applied to social media as well. If you want to access Facebook, if you want to access Instagram, if you want to access Twitter, all the different forms of social media, and even more than that, if you want to access an online banking account, if you want to access just anything that is online, anything where an account can be assigned to you, that's even on an e-commerce platform like Amazon and such, passwords are integrated into that system. So they are an effective way of preventing unauthorized access. However, a password is only as strong as you make it. What I mean by that is, let's say I'm creating a password for Facebook, just for argument's sake. And I make my password something that could possibly be guessed. Yes, it is a case where, well, as long as I'm the one that knows the password, then everything is fine. Even if I say my password is carat24, you may not be able to guess or get it right that my password is carat24 for a while, right? Because you just be trying to guess it and typing it in. But for professionals, in terms of persons who we would call black hat hackers, I could probably explain what that term means after this. But for persons who are professionals in hacking, they don't really need to guess. They employ something which is called a brute force attack, which I'll get to explaining in the next slide. But the first starting point is that a password is only as strong as you make it. Whether that, and even if you want to introduce the use of letters, numbers, special characters, all that kind of stuff, it still is only as strong as you make it. And you'll understand why in the next slide. So for that reason, we tend to now tell persons to take what we call a passphrase approach to creating a password. And in short, a passphrase is literally just thinking of a phrase and using it as your password. And you would be structuring it in a very unorthodox or random way, which I'm going to show an example of next. So let's just read the slide a bit. Try my best to prepare this in time. Here's an example of a possible 8-character password that shows 8 characters because that's the typical number of characters that persons utilize. Let's keep it relevant and say there's an 8-character password that has COG number 7 and the word day, key to saying, okay, Church of God, but second day, right? So a password like that can be easily broken through a brute force attack. And what a brute force attack is, it is simply, it can be made in different forms. I could write what we call a script to pull from what we call a data dictionary. A data dictionary is simply just a file that has a long, almost endless listing of words. And what would have happened is that it would have started with one person adding just a series of words, another person adding words, and so forth, and combinations. I could have that script take every single word line for line and just continuously into the password section until whatever is in that dictionary matches with your password. You have more sophisticated forms of brute force attacks, though, or brute force attack software, where it literally just tries every single combination possible that a character password could have. So to try to visualize it for you, for the first character, it would try every letter from A to Z. And then once that is done, it would try everything, every number, every single digit number possible, and every character. So just imagine something cycling through each letter, number, and character. Now think of that taking place simultaneously for 8 characters at the same time. With that type of a brute force attack, a password like this, that yes, it has lowercase and uppercase letters, it has a number, and it has a special character. Something like this could easily be broken into in a day. It would literally take someone a day with a sophisticated brute force software. So this is what we mean by it's really as strong as you make it. So what we in the business started trying to implore to people, more to business clients and stuff, persons with huge network infrastructures like an NCD or a digital, or just anyone that may have a business and have really sensitive data. Or if you are going on any form of site and you're doing business, you may be doing some form of a banking transaction online or e-commerce that involves your credit card and stuff like that, would advise it to take what we call a passphrase approach. So in the second point, I have an example of a passphrase. So I'll just quickly go through what you're actually seeing, because it may seem like gibberish at first look. So before we would have had a password that would have been probably related to maybe the Wi-Fi for the Church of God churches. So just to keep it consistent, I changed that to more so the passphrase. So I have here, if you look carefully at what I've typed out, it reads Church of God 7 and then number 7. So the first character would have been a capital C. I put an underscore, then I put a HU underscore R CH. I used the number 0 and not the letter O. After that, I put a F, I put a G. Again, for the O, I used the number 0. A letter 7, number 7. I put a S. The 7 would have been short for 7. As you would see now, I put a 3 instead of an E. and then I ended it with a capital V. So what you see here is something that would literally take any brute force software about 2,000 plus years to break. And that is because, I'll explain in the first previous example, I mentioned the data dictionary. And I said that it is taking every single line of a word that was added to that document and putting it in the password field and attempting to have it match. That dictionary would have been created in mind with like logic and grammar. So it would typically have literally had like words. So it would have had stuff like dog, cat, bird, fish, just a long line of actual words. Because of that, it would be very unlikely to find something like this in that data dictionary, because this does not follow any typical or standard convention. This does not follow English grammar. It doesn't follow typical logic. It is literally almost gibberish. So that type of a brute force exploit wouldn't apply there. The more sophisticated ones that I mentioned after, where it would try to figure out, would run a specific list for each character almost simultaneously. The problem that is going to encounter is that it is still going to try to have it make sense. So it wouldn't be able to account for me literally writing gibberish. I could have also added a space in there because, in a modern site, it should know all over spaces in a password. And a space literally would throw it off because most of the software wouldn't account for putting a space in any of the positions of the character. But you get the general idea here. So we call it a passphrase. Phrase because we want you to be able to have a way of associating what you're making your password with the site that you're accessing. So if it was a case where this is let's say it's a password for somebody's Wi-Fi at one of the churches, right? Because you're trying to connect to the Wi-Fi of the church, you could think of a phrase that would have something to do with your church, which would be, I guess this is mainly C4 people, some form of a passphrase that would reflect C4. The reason that we do that is, well, you could choose to literally have something that is almost practically gibberish, but that would be very difficult to remember. So that's why I would say this is a phrase that is connected with whatever you're associating the password with in order to easily remember. So, I'm gonna connect to the church's Wi-Fi. Okay, C47, church I got 7th day. Oh, right, this, it's a gibberish. So yeah, we genuinely try to as many persons as possible. It's still something that's a bit new to people, but we're trying to get that information. And when I say we, I'm talking persons in the profession, trying to get persons to now move from being passwords to actually being passphrases. Like I said, it would literally take any brute force software, even if it is a supercomputer, at least 2,000 years, mathematically speaking, to be able to crack a password with that approach. So that's definitely one way that it can help to make a password for a social media account even more secure. I think right after this is a different topic. Right, so I've come to the end of speaking about this topic. Are there any questions concerning this topic? Did everyone understand everything so far?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and there's no questions?
Yes, question.
Okay,
is it wise, even though with the passphrase, is it wise to use the same phrase for multiple accounts?
Excellent question. Genuinely, you would want each password for each account to be specific to that account. Whether you're, and this just goes for any form of whether it's a password or passphrase. You do not want to have a scenario where you're using one password from multiple accounts. In the sense of you have a Facebook account and the password, and then you have it's the password for that, you have an Instagram account, and the same password that you have for your Facebook account is the same password for your Instagram account. That's dangerous because should that password ever become compromised, you know, and I'm telling you that they know that persons usually make that mistake. For, you know, the unscrupulous persons, they're going to immediately, after compromising one account, test that password against all your possible other accounts.
Okay.
So if they know your email address, that's another. I'll get to that in a second. If they know your email address, all they need is a password. And usually, sometimes persons tie all of their social media accounts to one email address, which isn't necessarily a no-no. But if you can assign a different email account to another form of social media, please do so. I see another raised, I think that's another raised hand.
Thank you.
Hey man, you're welcome. I see a raised hand from Seaford Conference account. I think that's Lorenzo.
Yes, good night. That's me. Would you say that, all right, let me rephrase the question. What's the best way to store your password in terms of if you should have a memory lapse and you can't remember your password for some reason?
Excellent question. And we're literally going to go into that next. So that is literally the next topic in terms of you know, the memory lapse thing. So you'll get your answer soon. Is there any other question before we move on concerning this? All right, I'll take the silence as a no. So the next one. So Horenza asked a very, 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 very excellent question. Because if you're on the internet, well, not even if you're on the internet, if you exist, literally if you exist in this world, you have some form of an online account, whether it's social media, whether it's financial, whatever it is. At some point in time, you have some form of an account online. All right. You may have more than one, usually have more than one. And at times it gets very, very difficult to keep track of all of your usernames and passwords. So Horenza asked an excellent question of, you know, if there's a memory lapse, you know, what can I do to possibly help store them? You know, I'm guessing that would have been the question. Is there a way to safely store my credentials, as we call them? Credentials meaning username and password. So back in the day, people used to use notebooks, actual physical notebook. I mean, it's old school. It's fine, but you literally will need to have to guard that notebook with your life. Because should someone ever get a hold of that notebook, you literally have no way of possibly protecting those accounts. So what I mean by that is you have the notebook because you literally have not memorized all of your passwords for all of your accounts. So if I get the notebook and I have the username and I have the password, you don't remember it, which means I literally can go in there and change each password to something that now I only know. And the sad part about it is that you can't even preemptively stop me unless you know one or two of them by heart. So if I got the little physical notebook, you would have to remember each of them, beat me to the punch of going onto each, and you would have to log in and change the password before I can get to it, which is going to be very unlikely. And the same would apply if you have a document on your device that you have all of your credentials on. So the nature of IT is to solve problems. And so different persons would have employed what we call a credential management solution. So I didn't really put a lot of information on this topic. I just pretty much explained to you the danger of this type of approach, and I'm going straight to different solutions. But in short, a credential management solution is a piece of software where you can store your username and password to that software. You won't have to remember it. The only thing that you'll have to remember is one password, and that would be your master. That would typically be what is your master password. So what I mean by that is, so I use LastPass because it's secure. LastPass allows me to store my username and password for pretty much anything. And it stores it into what is called a password vault. That password vault can only be opened using the master password of the account. So it gives me the benefit of not having to remember all of my credentials, as well as the security that my master password is the only thing I need to remember. So whenever I log into, there's an extension that I use on Chrome. When I log into the extension on Chrome, once I'm logged in, if I go on any site that I have stored my credentials for, LastPass will automatically, well, I could change the setting, but it will automatically fill out those fields for me. LastPass also has some interesting stuff where it can pick up if you are using the same password for multiple accounts, and will, give you a nudge, hey, you need to change this password. LastPass will also be able to generate a passphrase like password for you if you can't bother to come up with it, which literally will be gibberish and will store it. So it's a solution to not necessarily having to remember all of your passwords, as well as a way to keep all of those private and secure. The drawback with using a credential management solution, however, is that if someone ever learns of your master password, then they could get access to your vault. What's the other? Oh, if someone gains access to a device you use, let's take, for example, my laptop. If someone stole my laptop and I didn't lock it down before they stole it, and I still had my LastPass account logged in, then it's fair game on all of my accounts. However, because of things like linking your account to, for example, your mobile phone, if someone was to steal a device or steal my device, I could still use my phone to shut it down. By that, I could go on the phone and change the master password, or I could just literally just say, okay, like shut down the account. Akin to how you'd approach canceling a credit card and stuff like that. So again, it is a layer of security to help keep data and information, secure, but it still heavily depends on you being responsible with, your information. And just note, every single thing online is dependent on you being very responsible with your information online. So we cannot design software to account for any form of irresponsible management of someone's information. It's really up to you guys. All right. So I think with that said, I saw a couple of raised hands, and I think that was part of her answer. So you have a follow-up question?
Yes, sir. It's very convenient at times to choose the option when signing in, keep me signed in. How dangerous is that, especially when using public devices, for example, in a library or at an internet cafe?
Never do it. Never, ever, ever, ever do that. And I'm going, I should have mentioned this before. I'm going to take the opportunity at times to give you actual real life examples of things that have happened that I have had experienced firsthand or third. So, oh boy. All right, so story time. So, and yeah, there are certain stories I can't speak about due to a non-disclosure agreement being signed, but this one literally happened while I was still in university. It was a third person experience. It wasn't me, but it was someone who is actually well known in cybersecurity who, if I was asked to give technical know-how, I would have recommended him. I don't think he'd mind me sharing his name because he's adept at what he does as a cybersecurity specialist. But when we're still at UTEC together, I had a friend called Lamar. Lamar and another friend of mine as well, who both of them are cybersecurity professionals, currently working for a top cybersecurity firm in Jamaica. They also helped with Jamaica Eye, and this is literally the project that they had shown that really helped to get in the space. So they did a course that was heavily involved cybersecurity and software protection and stuff like that, right? The project was that they had to find an existing software that they could exploit. It had to be something that would have been new and not discovered and not yet fixed. And they had to present on that. Very challenging. Because of their, let's call it confidence, they wanted to exploit WhatsApp. Upon investigation, they realized that for WhatsApp, in terms of the mobile app version, they really had no way of exploiting it. WhatsApp at the time did their job concerning the mobile version. However, they began to see a little bit of a exploit with the WhatsApp web solution. How can I explain it in a non-technical way? So to get back to Lorenzo's question, when you select keep me signed in, what's going on in the background is whenever you sign into any form of account, there takes place what we call a session. And this session is managed by the browser, and the browser interacts with the application, with the web application that is being used. And so your browser works in tandem with application to monitor the session. When you select to log out, the application tells the browser, hey, this user has now ended their time using this application. So please delete what is called a token from your your application's data, and end the session. When you select keep me signed in, what you're actually doing is telling the browser not to delete that token if it is that you do not select log out. So if you have the ticket, if you have the tick that says keep me signed in, and you sign in and you do not yourself manually select log out, even if you close your browser, that token is still within, it's still on the server. And server meaning whatever local server is being utilized by that browser, right? So to put it more into the scenario that Lorenza asked, you're in a library, you're in some form of a public Wi-Fi space. You select keep me signed in. So I'll speak more to the more physical part of it, which is what I'm sure was more alluding to, and then about the technical. So Lorenza, I imagine that what you were trying to have me like speak on is someone says keep me signed in, and you get up from that terminal neglecting to manually log out. There could have been someone at that library or public Wi-Fi, if it's that internet cafe, watching you. They go to the terminal that you were on, fire back up that computer, and even if you had closed that browser, they just go back to the browser's history if it wasn't cleared. And even if they don't, check the browser's history, they would have been watching which site you were on. You go back onto that site, you're still logged in. Yeah, so that's a physical aspect of it. So someone doesn't even need to be a cybersecurity specialist to get access to your account. They don't even have to employ the story I'm about to tell you now if they're just unscrupulous person. If it's just literally someone sitting down at any form of a place for public Wi-Fi, well, not public Wi-Fi, but any sort of a place where there is a computer that can be used publicly, that person just go on and don't really pay attention to what they're doing. Someone could just be there watching you, sees that you didn't sign up, and just goes back to your terminal and fires it up. So that's the more practical physical approach. There's a more technical one that is even more shocking. So I spoke about WhatsApp web. To make a long story short, Lamar and the other individual discovered that same token that is used to manage your session, they found a way to be able to gain access to that token. So even if someone had logged or signed into WhatsApp web, even if they had logged out, they were able to capture the token all the same before they logged out. They were able to capture it, and they could have chosen to fool the browser and say, yes, the token has been deleted. Or fool you and make it think that the session has ended. So how, put it in layman's terms, it's like they had a key card pass, and they literally took it out of your pocket while they were leaving without you knowing. This exploit, when it was presented in front of persons from Mocha. Not just persons from Mocha, but the head of the cybersecurity team at Mocha. When it was time for Lamar and our acquaintance to present their exploit, because it was WhatsApp web, and because of some school politics and it being UTech students, he did not believe that they found a true exploit. And he did that because, his team never reported that to him. He was verbally openly laughing at them as they began to set up for their presentation. They were humble. When they began their presentation, they asked for someone to volunteer. They promised that they would not have, save the person's, information or token or anything after the presentation. They would have deleted it right then and there. The head of the cybersecurity team at MOCA says, yes, I volunteer my WhatsApp profile, thinking that it will work. So they do what they need to do. He hands over his phone, sign on Lamar's laptop, I believe. Brought it up on a big screen. Okay, so here we have access to the WhatsApp web. They did the logout process. He was given back his phone, and he sat down, waiting to laugh. They opened back up a browser, fired up WhatsApp web, used the token that they got, went right back into his WhatsApp profile. They started showcasing that it's not a simulation, it's not fake. They started, they changed his name, showed that the name could have been changed, change it back, change the picture, showed it was changed, change it back. They then began to start to go through the conversations that he had. He became very silent. They just scrolled through the list. One of the peculiar things that everyone noticed is that this male's WhatsApp only had conversations with men. They went through about the first two conversations that were there. It seemed business. There's nothing untoward. The third chat was a bit suspicious in terms of the nature of the conversation. The fourth chat now is where, after simply scrolling 3 messages, the cybersecurity head of MOCA gets up and tells them that if they go past that line in the conversation, that he'll sue them for defamation of character or something to that effect. I'm not going to speak about the content or the nature of the conversations that were shown, but they were very damaging to the individual's character. Let's leave it at that. So why did I bother to go through both the both the simple exploits in the scenario that Horenzo allowed me to address, as well as to this more technical exploit, just to really emphasize, don't ever take the keep me signed in option. Quite literally, the only scenario in which I would advise you to do that is if you have a work laptop and your business, your place of work has provided what we call a VPN, where you connect to you have a secure connection and you don't have to worry about that. But if you're using any form of a public computer, don't ever have that selected. All right, so did that answer your question, Horenzo?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions concerning credential management solutions? I have 3 shown here. Bitwarden is free, as in completely free. LastPass is free and still has a paid aspect. And 1Password is, like LastPass, one free and also a paid aspect. The only difference is that 1Password is what we call more portable, or has better portability, meaning it has plugins and integrations for practically every browser and practically every device. LastPass pretty much just has a integration or plugin for us like Chrome, Mozilla, and I think it's Safari, just the main more popular web browsers. So you can take your pick, but
Question.
go ahead.
So will this management solution you're referring to, the LastPass or whichever one, can that be applied, for example, in a home where you have multiple, like I may have like 2-3 computers. I have my phone, 2 phones, and my other family members have their phone and computer. Could this be used on multiple, you know, like to
Devices?
cover the different, yeah, this one license, whatever, could be used to cover all the digital, whatever they are, the phone, the computers, or it
Okay,
has to just apply to one?
excellent question. There isn't a one answer to your question because it really depends on what you want. So out of the box, LastPass allows you to share your credentials with other persons via email. Not only can it share the credentials, it could literally allow someone to sign into your account without needing to know your credentials. So you would literally have sent them, you yourself would have sent that person an email, or I think it's an email, and they would have been able to, but no, lie. The purpose of, if you have a let's say that you want to have a LastPass account. You have a LastPass account. I can send my credentials for Facebook to you, and you can add that to your LastPass account. You would not be able to see the username or the password. You wouldn't be able to change it. But you would still be able to launch it, to go onto my Facebook, because I'm allowing you to access my Facebook. So typically, in whether it's like at home or in a business, if it is that I need to give someone access to something, for whatever purpose, I can give them access to it without having to reveal to them my credentials. I can do it with LastPass. I'm not sure about 1Password, but I know that it's possible with LastPass.
Okay.
But to answer your question more directly in terms of multiple devices and persons using it, I've never had to use LastPass in that way. I could look into it for you afterwards, but I would suspect that because of the nature, because I'm barely speaking on all the features of a credential management solution. You can, structure it in a way where it could suit different scenarios. So if I have multiple devices, it may or may not be a paid feature, but there is some way that I could, manipulate the management solution to account for something like that. But I could look into it to give you a more definitive answer and probably send it and probably share the information with you after this.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, cool. So next one is to enable two-factor authentication wherever possible. So if you have noticed by now, what I'm actually doing is going through each step of authorization when you are trying to access an account. And I'm just fleshing out that step with things that you can do along the way. So I have here enable two-factor authentication wherever possible. Two-factor authentication is simply just an added step to accessing an account. So you may have seen this, when you're trying to sign into, let's say, for example, a Gmail account. If you would have provided your phone number, it would say, we have sent you a text to the phone number assigned to your account. Please enter it here. it may be something where it would have asked a security question, not to sidetrack on the topic of security questions. But again, a security question is only as strong as you make it. So if your security question is, what is your mother's maiden name? Come on, anyone that knows you personally would know that answer. So that's not really a security question. A security question really needs to be something that probably only you and God himself would know. And most software allows for you to, usually they have a list of typical security questions that you could choose. If there is ever a selection that says other, for you to be able to type out one, please choose that and type out the security question. And is an answer to, that has an answer that only you and God himself would know. So that's a security questions handle. I have here, after that now, if you're on your desktop, you may have a notification pop up on your phone. I prefer that one, and I get to explain why. But two-factor authentication is an added step that also helps to make it difficult. So let's go to the scenario. Let's go back to the scenario of, and it works for either. I have a little notebook, hard copy or soft copy, meaning physical or digital, or well, no, I would work in the people side, but you know, my username and password have been compromised. Someone tries to access my account with that username and password. Because I have enabled two-factor authentication, they would need to have access to whatever form of two-factor authentication that I have set on my account for them to access it. So let's say that my laptop was taken and I had all of my credentials saved in a text file on my computer. And they say, okay, his Facebook account is this, that. They go to Facebook, type it in. And this is, I'm just being theoretical. I'm not sure if Facebook has two-factor authentication enabled. So let me not use Facebook. Let me use Google or Gmail. They attempt to use my username and password. But because I have two-factor authentication on, the notice comes up on my phone that someone is trying to sign into my account. From there, I can decline that sign-in. And because I've declined it, then the next thing that come after that is, was that you? Or was that you that was trying to sign in? Google can even give me the date, the time, and if I had location on where this person was when they tried to access them. I can from there choose to shut down or lock their account. And this is a typical approach that we'll see with most modern apps. So you really want to enable two-factor authentication wherever possible. That added step is another layer of making it difficult for someone to hack your account. So even if they brute force your account in terms of the username and password, because two-factor authentication is enabled, they still can't get in. So it helps to make it very less likely that someone can log into your account. Right. So that would have been the end of that topic. Are there any questions concerning two-factor authentication? No. All right. Awesome. So now we really get to really the meaty part of the presentation, which is really what I wanted to speak on. And I try to keep it as best as possible to the topic of social media. Here I have simply a topic that says avoid sharing personal information. I should have had it online. And I'm going to read what I have on the screen to really bring it home to everybody. We tend to share too much of our personal info and lives online. While the online social experience is exciting and almost begs that we do this, because of web design and the psychological, theories that we apply to web design. I could speak more on that if someone wants it. But yes, the social experience is exciting and almost begs that we do this. Cyber criminals can do a great deal of damage with even the smallest amount of information. So I'll give two examples. I'll give one, again, third person, happened in my neighborhood. And I'll give one that has happened, that is a part of a case study within the profession for persons who are in security training. But I deal with the one that happened in my neighborhood. So there's a family that lives about 3 streets behind me. That family went on a very extended family vacation. So I'm not sure if it was the daughter, but let's just say that the persons who live in that house, they tended to put a good amount of their life online. I'm not talking just their information, but their life. And what I mean by that is, if she's cooking, she posts that online. If she is, whatever the simplest of everyday tasks that she would be doing at home, she's putting it online. And in how she's taking pictures, it's revealing certain things about the house. So it's revealing where the windows are, it's revealing whether or not there are burglar bars or not on the windows, it's revealing where the back door is, it's revealing things about the house that are potentially dangerous to someone if they see it. She's also putting in stuff like, oh, just got my first job, 6-figure, high life, that kind of thing, whatever it's about, or it's just things that technically it doesn't really need to go on a social media page. So her life is practically on social media, or was on social media at the time. The family goes on a family vacation for an extended period of time. She posts that as well. Upon returning from the family vacation, the family returned to an empty house. A completely empty house. How? Well, a bit of social engineering. So yes, you have your privacy settings on your social media accounts. You have, okay, my account is not public. Only my friends or friends of friends can see my posts. And even if you set your privacy to my friends, only my friends, I want to ask you a serious question. How many of the persons that you have added to your friends on Facebook do you actually personally know? How many of these persons have you actually met in person? I'm going to answer the question just statistically. You don't. You don't. And you need to understand what social engineering really is. Because what these criminals did was simple. So they go on the girl's social media site, right? Her privacy settings are there. But she has a setting that says, friends of my friends can see my posts. So instead of sending a friend request to her, they send a friend request to one of her friends. So you see that mutual friend thing that comes up whenever somebody friend requests you? That is not to say, oh, this person knows this person who I don't know knows this person that I know. And so I can become a friend of them because they know that person. That's not always the case. While you may try to keep your thing private, some of your friends don't really care. They just add anybody to their profile. There was a time when more friends, more followers, more popular, and whatever. So Because that person has sent a friend request and is now a friend of one of your friends, they now are able to see all of your information. So that's one form of social engineering. Another form of social engineering is, and I'm going to use a very controversial scenario. You're a male and you're flashing certain stuff. I hear your name in the streets. I want another male. I want to get access to your information, but I'm not going to add you as a male. I am going to catfish you. I am going to create a social media account that is not me. And it's going to be a very good looking woman. And I'm going to add you. And when you add me, I'm going to start talking to you. And really trying to come off as a interested party. All the while I'm playing the con game, and I'm taking my time and not doing it all at once. I'm just subtly asking you questions or subtly having conversations that will start to touch on sensitive information. And before you know it, I have collected enough information that I can now feel free to exploit you in any way. One such way is, I have seen a case where someone was a very successful businessman, had a beautiful life, beautiful child, right? One day, his wife literally just packs up everything and begins to storm out of the house. This man literally, he's done nothing wrong. He's done nothing wrong. He in truth did not cheat or commit adultery on his wife. So he's asking, what is this about? What did you do? She's so convinced, and she says, you know what you did when you created that site, or you created that profile on that site? He's confused. When he does some digging, he finds out that there's a profile for him on, I'm not sure if it was in Angel Madison, a sex dating site, to just keep it, blatant. There was a profile on a sex dating site that had his name on it, his date of birth, his place of work, and that his relationship setup was single. Someone found it online, showed it to his wife, and that destroyed his marriage. And then because he was a successful businessman, it got out into the public and it started to really kill his business. It took this man going on an interview with a security consultant or expert with him to explain what happened. And what took place simply was, he had I think it was one of his social media profiles was completely public. So it had his real name, it had his birthday, it had pretty much everything about him on it. And the person just used that information to set up a fake profile for him, not necessarily to gain access to information, but just to destroy his life. And there are persons who are actually paid to do these things. The consultant even hinted that this may have even been done by one of his competitors to help to destroy his business. It took a lot of convincing for the wife to truly believe that that was the case. After that, they obtained a very hard learned lesson. So I've given you two scenarios, one that happened 3 streets behind me, and one that happened outside of Jamaica to a very successful business. And just to make it clear, this happens almost every single day. I think the stories should be enough to say, do not share your personal information online. I'll even use myself as an example. The only reason that I have where I work online is because of the nature of my work. As a software developer, I have to do that. But my Facebook profile does not utilize my full name or even my real name. My wife's Facebook profile doesn't even have a shred of her real name in it. None of my contact information is available for anyone to see. I do not post my personal life on any social media. Outside of things that have to do with the work I do, and I'm not talking only software developer here, I do stuff outside of my 9 to 5 that require me to utilize social media platforms. But I don't put things that could be very dangerous on there. You'll never see me take a picture of where I am, ever. And what I mean by that is you'll never see me say like on my way to this hotel, on my way to this restaurant, anything like that. That's what I mean. But if I even go out and I want to remember the moment and I take a picture and share it, I don't share it while I'm there. So what I'm really getting at is I do my best to be able to take part in the social media experience without revealing too much of myself on social media. That is what we really mean by avoiding sharing your personal information on social media. Social engineering does not require knowledge in how to hack. It does not require brute force attacks. It doesn't require anything technical. It literally just requires being a very cunning person and applying your cunning nature to social media and just watching what someone posts, watching what someone shares. That's what social engineering is. It doesn't take a cybersecurity expert, it doesn't take a hacking expert. It just takes someone who is interested in what you have to post on social media. So continuing from this specific slide, play it safe. Never share things like your full name or address or financial information with anyone online. This also goes to the usernames that you create. If you have the option to create a username instead of using your email address as a username, please do so. And do not have the username be connected to your actual identity in any way, unless it is required, which is only if you're using a site that is connected to either medtech, meaning medical services, or fintech, physical services. Those are fine because persons in those industries do everything they can to keep that secure. But anything else, especially social media, nothing concerning your actual true identity should be there. Nothing that could give away anything that is sensitive should ever be there. When filling out any online surveys or forms, be a bit selfish with certain details. If a field is not outlined as required, you don't need to put anything in there. Just really try your best to lower your digital footprint. If you don't need to put something that is personal online, don't. I can understand if you are a social media influencer and you have some form of an agreement with someone to promote, whether that be like a product, a service, clothes, whatever it is, then take the necessary precautions and measurements to keep yourself safe. But just for everyday social media usage, just have fun in a very mature and careful way. That's it. Are there any questions before I go on to the last thing I want to speak on?
Hello, good night.
Good night.
Yes. If you do not remember your username, can you change it? Does it take a lot to change it? Like for instance, I set up my banking, online banking, about, is it early this year, I think. But recently they asked me for my username, and I was like, I was thinking that it's associated to my name, so I was here putting in not, and then I said, oh my goodness, I don't remember it at all. And each time I have to come back out because it is saying that I need to put in my username. So I know that I'm listening to your presentation. I just remember that I did not use my name at all. It was somebody. It's another person's name, my family member. So I think I remember it now. Can I delete it? So in trying to I think they did suggest that I do not use my name. When I was at the bank, that I don't. I have to create a name that is not easy to, for anybody.
Figure out.
So now, yes. So now I
Question.
remember it. I think I remember it now.
Do you mind telling me which bank this was?
BNS.
BNS.
Yes. All right. So I really, I'm glad for this presentation. Thank you.
Right. Anything else on this specific topic? Someone named Trez has raised their hand. We can go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. You spoke to social engineering and how persons can, give away information easily, and then it be used against them. We also know that one of the main ways of main social engineering attacks is phishing, and
right.
I was wondering if you could give some tips as to how persons can look out things that they can look out for in emails or messages that would give an indication that this is a phishing email or a phishing message, so that they're not necessarily caught up in it.
Excellent question, and your answer is in the next section. Last but not least, beware of phishing scams. So to just slightly touch on what phishing is a social engineering technique where an individual will make some form of contact with another person under fraudulent pretense, designed to trick them into revealing sensitive information or to unknowingly aid in the deployment of malicious software or malware on the victim's device, as well as any network infrastructure that it is connected to. That's a mouthful. But I think Trez did well to also give another way it can be defined. It's also where the term catfish, if anybody watches that popular show, it's kind of one of the origins of the actual slang because of this technique. But phishing is more than just pretending to be someone you're not online. And we've gotten to a section where I'm free to share something that actually happened, both because I've worked for this company and because that company made this public so that persons could be aware. So on my screen, what you're seeing here is an email. You are seeing an email that seems to be coming from NCD, which says, "Dear valid customer, as part of our security measures, we regularly update all accounts on our database system. We are unable to update your online account, and therefore we will be closing your online accounts to enable the upgrade. Please log on to," and they provide this URL and say to upgrade your account and update your personal information to prevent any interruption with your online account. And then they have a warning clause, and then they have, a do not reply clause, and something at the end to really try to bring it home. For most persons who would have been aware of this email is fake. This is not from NCB. And I'm going to speak to why this is not an authentic NCB email, and then I'm going to speak more to Trez's question as to what to look out for. But I'm going to speak to this one, and I chose it specifically because I work for this company. I've done software development for this company. It pretty much is one of the most familiar companies that I've worked with. I really am familiar with this company. So first things first, NCB, and quite literally any banking institution, should never, ever be sending you an email instructing you to click on a link or to press a button to do an action. Speaking for NCB, typically these emails are in the form of templates, and we have automated code that would simply just apply the name of the customer to specific points in this email. So majority of the times it's actually a software developer that writes the code that would send this email as a service. If I, Duran Brooks, was to write that code to include a URL of any kind, even if it was to one of our actual authentic URLs, I'm instantly fired. There is no conversation. I cannot plead my case. If I ever coded that, I'm instantly fired. We also will never, ever ask you to respond to an email with any form of personal or financial information. We will never ask you to respond to an NCB email with your bank account information of any kind. And if that text was ever outlined in an email service by me or any other developer there, again, we would instantly be fired. Those are the measures that NCB takes to ensure that they don't have phishing scams taking place, or any successful ones. Going back to this image, I'll try to see if I can talk about what in this image is obvious. If I can move this thing, there we go. So let's start with the email. Right here it says NCB info. That part of the email is correct. At the NCBFG aspect of that email, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. Typically it's ncbinfo@jncb.com. There's no NCBFG. So there's that. And then sometimes it's also just looking at things like grammar, structuring, and just things that should stand out. In this specific image, there's no spacing. Some of the grammar is not correct. Something like this warning is just there as plain text. If we wanted to have something as a warning or a disclaimer, it would usually have some form of a design to it. But even that as well, designs can be replicated. This URL, while it does seem safe because of the HTTPS aspect, meaning that this is a secure URL, the domain name is incorrect. This is not how we typically have domain names. So for example, I worked on the first project I worked on for them would have been the mortgage site. The mortgage domain is myhome.jncb.com, not www. And that's because we try to have each product's web address be its own domain. So we're trying not to have all of NCB's system completely connected together like that, or have all of their products on one specific domain. So we try to give each product of NCB its own domain to make it, more secure. But I think one of the ways to really keep abreast of these things, there are two things you can do. I think the first one is that most institutions in fintech, I'm talking banking institutions, they tend to usually have a section where they usually have, regular updates as to what to expect in an email and what their official email addresses are, usually. And you can go onto the website and be able to check these things. So if you see an email that is, asking you to do something, you could check and see if it's actually from, a trusted email address associated with that company. And if having to do that is a bit tedious, there's always simply calling customer care. Just to call it, and it's just, you call customer care and you just say, you're asking, is there any form of a, is this authentic? I received this email, is this authentic? And you would have someone that would say this is not authentic, and they'd actually ask you to forward it to them so that they can get the message out there that, hey, this is a new phishing scam attempt. Be aware. So that's NCB's approach, but within the entire industry, it really just is about you, doing a fact check, find out if this is actually true. Do a fact check, find out if it is actually true. You have other things like, and phishing is not, I want to also point out, I hope I've answered Trez's question, but phishing is not specific only to emails. Phishing can come in many different ways. It could come as a text, it could come as maybe a pop-up while surfing the web, it could come in different ways. It just really needs you to be careful and to fact check stuff. One thing in particular that I've seen on social media or even on WhatsApp is that persons will forward chain messages or things that they think are promotion, or that WhatsApp is going to be doing this specific thing and you need to do this to be able to conform to these things. Again, fact check. If Pizza Hut is having a promotion, you should be able to find an advertisement for that promotion online, more specifically on their website. If it's not there, even if the person sent a message and said 10 free large pizzas, if it's not literally on their site, it's more than likely not authentic. And then there's a serious danger attached to when everyone is just sharing these messages or asking someone to do this chain message or whatever. There's a serious danger involved, and I'm going to show why. There are two very dangerous forms of malware that are utilized with phishing, which is a backdoor exploit and ransomware. I'm going to speak first on a backdoor exploit. And what a backdoor exploit is that it removes the need for someone who's unscrupulous from having to authenticate to connect to your device. And this could even very well give them remote access to your device. So let me give a practical example. And let me just point out, yes, WhatsApp is secure and WhatsApp has end-to-end encryption and they throw away the key, meaning the conversations that you have with people are confidential and secure. That's true. But if someone sends you a URL that is suspicious and you click on it, that is going to be a vulnerability that you would have introduced yourself to. Because now you click on this Pizza Hut giveaway, which is not true. You go on there and in accessing the site, a backdoor is installed discreetly on your device. And it's without your knowledge either. And to give you a good idea of some of the things that someone can do with a backdoor exploit, if they wanted to, they could turn on your microphone without your knowledge and listen to everything that is being said within the space of the laptop. They could run a keylogger software on your machine. And what a keylogger is, it literally just records every single thing you type. They can turn on your webcam without even the light that indicates it's on being on. That can be turned off as well. Let's chat real quick. Ensure. Right. They can turn on that webcam without even you being, knowledgeable of it. I mentioned my friend Lamar. He did some YouTube videos where he literally did this and showcased it. We have a gazebo on campus for the School of Computing and IT. Under there, everybody plays video games, and usually they're playing video games on their laptop. It was simulated. It was a simulated scenario, but in his video, which he did, he showed where someone wanted a game on their laptop to play, and he had it on a USB, and he gave it to the person, plugged in the USB to install the game on the laptop. The thing about USBs is that you can set a program on a USB that once it is inserted into someone's computer, if there is not sufficient antivirus software on the computer, it will automatically install a backdoor exploit on that machine. Also, anyone that then also attaches a USB device to that laptop afterwards will also have that malware discreetly installed on their USB. And then it becomes a cycle of persons just plugging in USBs all around until everyone is infected. It's one of the reasons that cloud computing was introduced to try to help stop it. But continuing from the simulation that he did, she installed the game, she's having fun, got back the USB, everything seems dandy. She went home, he went home, he's away from her, not even on the same internet provider as her. But once he got home and was able to access the backdoor exploit associated with his machine, could do everything. He literally showed where he turned on her mic without her knowing, and he was hearing a phone call she was having. Logged everything that she was typing, turned on her camera, showed that she was there and thing. It's also, I don't know if you've ever seen it, if you've ever noticed some persons have a little slider, they have a little plastic slider over their webcam where they put tape over it. Yeah, that's because if you want a surefire way to ensure that no one is accessing your webcam without your knowledge, cover it. I don't care if you may have a software, you may find a software somewhere that says it will prevent someone from turning on webcam. Just cover the webcam. Simple. But yeah, that's what a backdoor exploit is. So when you get a phishing email or any other form of phishing, and you just go on the site innocently, or you forward the message innocently, you're running a little script of software that will put that backdoor on it. And I want to add, if you are connected to, if you're at home and it's a router that you're connected to, because the backdoor is on your device, anyone that is also connected to that router is also vulnerable because they're connected to the same network. So if you have more than one device at home, if there's a backdoor exploit on one, it is possible for someone to then access every other device in that home. If you are at a workplace and there's a backdoor exploit on one machine, the entire network infrastructure is compromised. And then you get into little nice scenarios of what we call exploits utilizing backdoors, like a ransomware. And a ransomware simply is someone gains access to your machine, gains access to a complete network of your business place, and encrypts every single solitary piece of data on your device and network. Meaning you can't access, not only can't you sign in, you literally cannot turn your device on. And then they'll display a little message on your screen saying, if you want to regain access to your device and all the information, pay me this amount of money to this account or whatever. I know it sounds like something out of a movie, but it happens. And when I say it happens, I've seen it firsthand. Not my personal device, thank God. But I've seen it firsthand somewhere where I worked. And I'm going to backtrack to phishing to explain how it happened. Quite literally, it's going to get dangerous. Let's just say that someone's device got compromised. That device connected to the workplace's network. They gain access to an executive's device. They began to monitor email correspondence between that executive and other executives. The purpose of this is that they were able to gain a bit of information concerning that company's banking account. I'm not going to name which bank. But that bank at the time, it's still the case now, didn't necessarily do everything that you should to be able to protect people's stuff. At the time, this is some years ago. So they just needed a little bit of information to be able to exploit the vulnerability they found in the bank to clean out that specific account they could get into if they had the right information. So these hackers played the long game. It was months of monitoring, not weeks, months, like 3 to possibly 4 or 5. They just did some very extensive social engineering. They took note of how a typical email correspondence from an executive was written. They took note of how that executive spoke. They took note of the words they used. They took note. They literally just monitored everything until they reached a point where they could replicate not just correspondence, but the very nature of the person that they would present themselves as to the executive of the company that was stationed out here in GAA. So after sufficiently doing all of that surveillance, we did one of the most interesting, but sadly typical exploits you can do. They sent a correspondence that would have been sent under the guise of it being very important, like urgent. The subject would be like urgent, need attention on this. And the email just, went on to say that they are with a client and they're at a client engagement session, at a function, and they forgot to purchase some prizes to give to participants of the event, which would have been some Amazon gift cards and so forth. So the email would have said, we need you to quickly send us some of the credit card information so we can get those prizes. Now, that out of, that just, looking at it at first glance, you'd automatically think this cannot be authentic. But because the email was structured in a way that so closely mimicked the person it would have been coming from, it was quite literally like taking candy from a baby. And the thing about it was, usually it would have to be the person who's in charge of finance to take care of that. But because it was structured in a way that made it seem urgent, and the person was instructed to bypass the usual procedure, it should have been to fact check with finance if they received that instruction as well. Sadly, that individual responded with the bit of information they needed, and they didn't do it immediately. It's the next thing. The guys who know what they're doing, they don't exploit you same time. They wait. So they got the bit of info, and right when a major chunk of profit from the work that the company would have been doing for the entire year, this was close to the end of the year, huge amount of money of profit. And this profit would have come when in the previous year, the company did not do well and only were able to break even. And every single employee at the time for that entire year put in the work, just long hours of work to really get the company back stable and to be able to give themselves the opportunity of getting a Christmas bonus to profit sharing. Once that amount of money came in to go into that specific account, gone. The minute it was finally transferred in, was directly bypassed and sent to the account of the hackers. Absolutely gone. And then because it was Jamaica, because it happened with a banking institution that was Jamaican, and our cybersecurity laws and financing laws are not to the level of a first world country that would have protected the company from that and been able to help track down the persons and get the money back. And if not able to track down the persons, at least not hold the company liable. Jamaica is a bit lax in our laws. The hackers found that it was an international company, but they found that because the account had a Jamaica branch and a Jamaica system, and there's a vulnerability there, and there were certain laws that aren't implemented here, they targeted the Jamaica team because of that. And that was it. The company, I mean, I no longer work there, but they didn't get that money back. And this was after some, persons that would have taken out loans, car loans, mortgage, whatever you name it, expecting that little extra money, and sadly it was gone. Absolutely gone. Thankfully, they had money in a separate aspect that would have still paid people their salary for a few months, but major chunk of it was gone. And we then thought that would have been the end of it. Lo and behold, a few days after that, came to work, no one's machine could be accessed. they also employed a ransomware and encrypted every single person's machine, which is bad because that means that even client info would have been compromised as well. Client info could have potentially been compromised as well. And the only thing that we could, the company, the team could do was to just start from scratch. Just purge all the data on everyone's machines, reinstall everything, and build things back from scratch. For code, for software development and coding, it wasn't that much of an issue. It wasn't that much of an issue because sorry for that. It wasn't that much of an issue because we in software development we typically use what's called repositories. So we store our codes on a protected cloud service. So that keeps the code secure. But everything else was purged. The only person at work who was safe was someone who was smart enough to already encrypt his data himself. He was one of our more, let's call him advanced co-workers who was forward thinking enough to think, hey, I probably should encrypt all of my data just in case this ever happens. And he was the only person who could work that day. So yeah, the only other thing that you can do if you have other thing you can do apart from encrypting all of your data to protect against a ransomware is to just regularly back up your data to a suitable service or external hard drive or something to that effect, so that if your data does become compromised, you just purge it and move on. But it is better to just avoid all of that through not doing anything that could compromise your device or network. So yeah, it is a serious world out there, folks. You may see things in movies and TV shows and think that could never happen. Trust me, it happens. And the fight against cybersecurity never ends. Because there are persons who, every single day, we think of one way to prevent stuff. There are persons who sit down and just dedicate their entire day, entire week to finding a way to exploit it. Sometimes, thankfully, we have white hat hackers and persons who we call penetration testers, who they do spend all of their time trying to break into things, but once they break into it, they let persons know how they broke into it to be able to now fix that vulnerability and make it safer. So that story I shared earlier with the whole WhatsApp web thing and the embarrassment of the head of the cybersecurity team at Mocha, Lamar and his colleague would have documented all of what they found and sent it to WhatsApp. They were asked by WhatsApp to send it so they could add it to things that they needed to take care of. And that exploit has, thankfully been taken care of since then. But you have persons, and that's the job that he does right now. And that's what I think. I'm not sure if he's still working with NCB right now, but up to a year ago, before I went to another company and then came back there, that was his purpose, to literally keep us aware, to penetration test anything we did, as well as to look at us physically in the room. So if he was literally contracted by NCB, where someone got up and left their machine on or open, he was contracted to go and install a backdoor exploit on that machine and to do something when we came back and show us that we were exploited by him and to never do it again. And we would receive a warning from him. And if we ever did it again, then he would report it to the upper heads and say, hey, this person might be a vulnerability for you. So yeah, it has been quite a long session with you guys. I would have spoken a lot, made you aware of a lot, but there still are things that have not been discussed that you may want to ask questions about. And I'll try my best to answer it. If not, I could do my best to direct you either to somewhere online where you can read about it, or to someone who could speak a bit about it. So at this time, if there are any questions and answers, feel free to fire off.
One quick question.
Mhm.
What is your best recommendation in terms of antivirus?
Software. All right.
The antivirus protection like my device.
If you are someone that has money, you really want to go with Norton.
Norton?
Yes, Norton antivirus.
Mhm.
That's if you have money. If you have money and you don't really mind paying, a couple of US dollars for antivirus software, you can use Norton. If you are looking for a free solution, I'd ask Lamar myself for that would be free. And he suggested to me at the time Malwarebytes. And Malwarebytes is free for download. Its setup is pretty user-friendly, and it will do most of the job. So that's really against like antivirus and malware. If you also want to be able to keep things secure when you're on the internet, meaning protecting yourself from what we call middleman exploits, you can get what is called a VPN, which stands for a virtual private network. And what a virtual private network is, it is simply a connection that is utilizing information that is not tied to your device or to your network provider to give you a secure connection to everything that you do online. There are affordable VPN solutions like ExpressVPN, ExpressVPN that offer that that type of feature where once you turn it on, you effectively are surfing online securely. And you don't have to really worry about certain things like that. So, just a rule of thumb, when it comes to protecting yourself online, it usually will come at a cost. If you're not able to avoid that cost, then you just have to do the practices that I've outlined, along with any other best practices you may find in articles from reputable tech sites. If you're if you're in a position where you can't afford certain easier solutions. But a good antivirus software like Norton, accompanied by VPN, whether by Perimeter 81 or ExpressVPN or any other similar reputable VPN solutions, you should be perfectly fine on that.
Okay. I ask because I do some home base, and I work with people's personal data, personal information, including banking and like SSN, the social, etc., etc. Have their whole thing. And I'm working with people like these, sometimes on a little part-time basis, and I work from home. So, I'm just trying to find out my best way to make sure that my customers or clients or whatever, that their information is protected. And I was wondering if it would make a difference. You spoke about using the same, like connecting to the same network. I was wondering if it would be different if I have my own router, to which my computer would be connected solely, if that would also be helpful.
To understand your question better, is it all right? So you said that you're working from home and you do part-time work.
I do. Yes.
Well,
like a little home base.
Okay, and you said that you connect. What do you currently connect to? when you're doing that,
No,
that work at home?
No, well, I use my network, my own network.
Sorry, the last thing you said was distorted. Could you repeat that? If you're
And the
speaking,
Wi-Fi.
if you're speaking, I wasn't able to hear what you were saying. I'm not sure if there's an issue with your connection.
Maybe I'm saying that I work with people's data, personal information, and I want to make sure that it's protected.
Right.
So I'm trying to find out that best route. Well, you mentioned about the antivirus. I need to make sure that I have proper antivirus on my computer.
Right.
So what next you think that I may need to make sure that they're protected, information is protected?
Well, so on that device, do you connect to the internet?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi.
Right. So apart from installing some antivirus software, as I said, you could use a VPN. And if for whatever reason someone should be in your home and they wish to connect to your network, have them do a virus scan before they connect to ensure that no one, there's no malware or exploit on their device before they connect to your network as well.
Okay, gotcha. So you think it probably might be better if I have my own router that nobody else is using, right?
When you say your own router that no one else is using, do you mean I'm not sure what you mean. Because to understand the situation, you work
if I have my own.
If you have your own router.
If I have my own internet provider, so instead of having one thing that serves 3-4 persons in the home, I would have one that is only dedicated, that I would use only for my computer, and it's not connected to anybody else's.
Okay, so you mean a separate router from the more utilized one? So what a router really is, what a Wi-Fi router really is, it's just a device that emits a Wi-Fi signal.
Okay, yeah, I know.
But it is still the same.
Okay.
Network connection. Still the same. It's still going to be the same IP. It's still going to be the same IP address.
IP address.
And still going to be it's still going to be the same network. It's not necessarily anything different.
Okay, thanks. Interesting. Thank you. Interesting presentation.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, no. So with that, I want to thank everyone for their time and allowing me to be able to have this session with you guys. Went an hour over, which I do apologize for. But I really wanted to be able to give you guys as much knowledge now to be able to take care of yourselves without necessarily needing to do any follow-up with me. That being said, I want to thank Lorenzo for inviting me to be able to do this presentation with you guys. As I shared before, if you have any further questions, you can pose them to me. My email address, my business email address is pretty much my name at gmail.com. You can send short there if you want. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks, guys.
Jennifer Lopez.
I think I'll hand back over to friends at this time.
Lorenzo. Hello, is anyone on?
Yes, it looked like everything got cut off.
We got cut off?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm not.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
anyway, good night,
I'm not
everybody.
hearing- Okay, I'm not hearing Lorenzo. Did we say thank you to the presenter?
No, I didn't hear
No,
that.
because I have Lorenzo. I'm not hearing Lorenzo.
All right, Tracy, you want to do it for us, please? Please, thank you, honey.
All right. So just want to thank the presenter, Mr. Brooks, for sharing with us. From the chat and from comments made, you would realize that persons were engaged and they were grateful for the information. And I hope that whenever Lorenzo calls again, that you won't hesitate to join us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you and good night.
And have a good night.
Thank you, same to you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Trace.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone. Good night.